10 years ago, Tom was desperate. After months of unemployment, he had finally stumbled upon a job opportunity that could change his life. But when he walked into the office for the interview, the manager, Mrs. Henderson, took one look at him and frowned. "You need a haircut," she said sternly. The words hit Tom like a punch to the gut. He had no money, and haircuts were a luxury he couldn't afford. Tom left the office with a heavy heart but refused to give up. He spent the entire day going from barber shop to barber shop, explaining his situation and pleading for a free haircut. Each time, the barbers shook their heads sympathetically but sent him away. Time was running out, and Tom was down to his last hope, the tiny barber shop at the edge of town. It was closing time when Tom arrived, and the lights were already dim. The barber, an elderly man named Joe, was just about to lock up. Desperation in his eyes, Tom explained his situation one last time. "I need this job. Can you please give me a haircut? I can't pay you right now, but I will someday." Joe looked at him for a long moment before nodding slowly. "Sit down," he said. "I haven't had a single customer today anyway." As Joe snipped away at Tom's unruly hair, Tom tried to give him his life savings, 8 crumpled dollars. Joe smiled gently and shook his head. "Keep it. Consider this a gift." Feeling a surge of gratitude, Tom went back to the office the next day. Mrs. Henderson barely recognized him and, impressed by his determination, offered him the job on the spot. That moment marked the beginning of an incredible journey. 10 years later, Tom had risen through the ranks to become the CEO of a very successful company. He never forgot where he came from or the people who helped him along the way. One day, he heard that Joe's barber shop was struggling to stay afloat, facing closure due to dwindling sales. Tom decided it was time to repay the favor that had changed his life. He walked into Joe's shop once more, but this time he was not the desperate young man begging for a free haircut. He was a man of means with the power to make a difference. Tom handed Joe an envelope containing $10,000. "This is to thank you for believing in me when no one else did," he said. "You helped me when I needed it the most, and now it's my turn to help you." Joe's eyes filled with tears as he accepted the envelope, and the two men shared a quiet moment of gratitude and mutual respect. Tom left the shop knowing he had come full circle, and Joe knew he had made a difference in more ways than one that fateful night. Sometimes, a simple act of kindness can change the course of a life, or even two.
Once upon a time, in a quaint village nestled at the edge of a dense forest, there lived a young boy named Elliot. Elliot had a special bond with a beautiful fox named Jasper. Jasper wasn't just a pet to Elliot. He was his best friend and constant companion. One bright morning, as the sun filtered through the trees, Elliot and Jasper ventured into the forest to gather wildflowers and explore their favorite spots. They chased butterflies, shared secrets, and laughed together. But as the day grew old and shadows lengthened, it was time to head back home. As they made their way back, a sudden rustle in the bushes startled Jasper. Before Elliot could react, Jasper darted off into the dense undergrowth, disappearing from sight. Panic gripped Elliot's heart as he called out for Jasper, but there was no sign of his furry friend. The forest grew dark, and Elliot knew he had to find Jasper before nightfall. With a heavy heart and fear gnawing at his insides, he set out to search for his lost companion. He navigated through the winding paths, calling Jasper's name and listening for any response. The forest seemed vast and unforgiving, casting eerie shadows as the light faded. Elliot's determination to find Jasper never wavered, even as doubts crept into his mind. Hours passed, and exhaustion threatened to overcome him, but Elliot pressed on. Just when hope was beginning to dim, he heard a familiar whine coming from a cluster of bushes ahead. With a renewed sense of urgency, Elliot rushed towards the sound, and there, curled up and shivering, was Jasper. Relief flooded through Elliot as he gathered Jasper in his arms, feeling the warmth of his friend's fur against his skin. Jasper licked Elliot's face, as if apologizing for causing him worry. Elliot held Jasper close, his heart overflowing with gratitude and love. As they made their way back home, the moon rose high in the sky, casting a soft glow on their journey. Elliot realized that sometimes, in the face of adversity, our bonds with those we cherish most are strengthened. And as he nestled closer to Jasper, he knew that their friendship was unbreakable, enduring any challenge that came their way. From that day on, Elliot and Jasper's bond grew even stronger, a tale of loyalty and friendship that would be whispered in the winds of the forest for years to come. When Heidi's aunt, Deet, left the 5-year-old girl at her grandfather's secluded cabin high in the Alps, the villagers murmured about the old man's sour demeanor. The grandfather was known to be a grumpy and unsociable person, someone who had lived alone for many years. Quickly, however, Heidi's infectious joy and innocent curiosity began to thaw the old man's stoic exterior. Adaptable and resilient, Heidi thrived amidst the high altitudes and breathtaking landscapes, making friends with the goats and delighting in the freedom of green meadows. She forged a fast friendship with Peter, the young goat herd, who became her companion on endless adventures across the mountains. Through their daily excursions to tend the goats, Heidi and Peter discovered the hidden wonders of their alpine world and, in doing so, she grew closer to her grandfather, awakening a gentleness and warmth in him that few had ever seen. The peace of their mountain life was shattered when Aunt Deet returned to take Heidi to Frankfurt, where she was to be a companion to a young disabled girl named Clara. Clara lived in a luxurious home with her father, Mr. Cece and their strict housekeeper, Frau Rotman. The city overwhelmed Heidi. Her spirit, tuned to the rhythm of mountain streams and wind-swept ridges, found little solace in the rigid rules and monotonous walls of urban life. However, Clara, tall and blonde, found in Heidi a true friend who brought life and laughter into her lonely, confined existence. Despite the challenge of adapting to these new surroundings, Heidi's inherent kindness began to transform her new household. Under her influence, Clara's health began to improve. Yet, the price was heavy. Heidi's deep yearning for her alpine home grew so intense that it led to nightly bouts of sleepwalking, driven by her desperate longing. Mr. Cece recognizing Heidi's deteriorating condition, made the compassionate decision to send her back to her beloved mountains with a promise that Clara would visit soon. The reunion with her grandfather was joyous, filled with the familiarity of their shared life and the natural beauty she had so deeply missed. True to his word, Clara eventually journeyed to the Alps, where the fresh air and invigorating outdoor activities fostered an incredible improvement in her health, even enabling her to walk again.
Once upon a time, in a small village nestled between towering mountains and lush green forests, lived a young girl named Luna. Luna was no ordinary girl. She had a wild imagination and a heart full of curiosity. Every night, she would gaze out her window at the starry sky, dreaming of adventures in far-off lands. One evening, as Luna was drifting off to sleep, she noticed a strange, shimmering light outside her window. She quickly jumped out of bed and tiptoed to the window. To her amazement, she saw a beautiful unicorn with a mane that sparkled like a rainbow and a horn that glowed with a magical light. "Hello, Luna," said the unicorn in a gentle voice. "My name is Starlight. I need your help to save the land of dreams from an evil sorcerer who has stolen all the colors of the rainbow." Luna's eyes widened with excitement. "I'll help you, Starlight," she exclaimed. Starlight lowered her head, and Luna climbed onto her back. With a powerful leap, the unicorn soared into the night sky. They flew over mountains, across oceans, and through fluffy clouds until they reached the land of dreams, a place filled with vibrant colors and magical creatures. But something was wrong. The once colorful land was now dull and gray. The flowers had lost their hues, and the sky was a murky shade of brown. Luna and Starlight landed in the center of a village where the residents looked sad and worried. The evil sorcerer, Gloom, has stolen the colors and hidden them in his dark castle, explained a tiny fairy with sparkling wings. Without the colors, our world is losing its magic. Luna and Starlight knew they had to act fast. They set off towards the dark castle on the horizon, determined to restore the colors and save the land of dreams. As they approached the castle, they encountered a series of challenges. A maze of thorny vines, a river guarded by a grumpy troll, and a mountain with a sleeping dragon. With Starlight's magic and Luna's cleverness, they managed to overcome each obstacle. Starlight used her horn to create a shimmering path through the maze, and Luna befriended the troll by sharing a piece of her favorite chocolate. They tiptoed past the dragon, careful not to wake it, and finally reached the castle gates. Inside the castle, they found Gloom, a tall figure dressed in a cloak as dark as night. He was holding a glowing orb that contained all the colors of the rainbow. "You cannot take the colors back," Gloom sneered. "Without them, I am the most powerful being in the land of dreams." Luna stepped forward bravely. "You can't keep the colors forever, Gloom. The land of dreams needs them to survive." Starlight's horn began to glow, and a brilliant beam of light shot towards the orb. The orb cracked open, and a burst of rainbow colors exploded into the air, filling the castle and spilling out into the land. The flowers bloomed with vibrant reds, blues, and yellows. The sky turned a brilliant shade of blue, and the creatures of the land of dreams danced with joy. Defeated, Gloom shrank back into the shadows. Luna and Starlight watched as the land of dreams came back to life, brighter and more beautiful than ever. "Thank you, Luna," said the fairy with sparkling wings. "You have saved our world." In the small town of Riverton, the annual bike race was the highlight of the summer. It was a race that brought together kids from all corners of town, each one eager to claim the title. This year, two rivals, Jake and Mia, were the ones to watch. Both were competitive, determined, and had been practicing tirelessly for months. Jake, with his sleek, custom-built bike, was known for his speed. His confidence was as high as his skill, and he believed the race was his to lose. Mia, on the other hand, rode a trusty old mountain bike. Though not as flashy as Jake's, it was reliable, and Mia's determination and agility were unmatched. She had spent countless hours training, often biking through the woods and up the steep hills that surrounded Riverton. The day of the race arrived with clear skies and a gentle breeze. The streets buzzed with excitement as kids, parents, and spectators gathered. The starting line was set at the town square, a place where Jake and Mia had often raced each other as children. Today, however, the stakes were higher than ever. As the race began, the crowd cheered, and the kids sped off, their bikes a blur of color and motion. Jake took an early lead, his bike cutting through the air with ease. Mia, however, was not far behind. She navigated the twists and turns with a grace that surprised everyone. The racecourse wound through the town, across fields, and into the dense forest that bordered Riverton. Jake pushed hard, his eyes fixed on the finish line, but Mia's determination was unwavering. She knew the trails better than anyone and used that knowledge to her advantage, catching up with Jake on the narrow, winding paths of the forest. As they reached the final stretch, the gap between them had narrowed to a mere heartbeat. Jake's confidence was shaken, and Mia's resolve was stronger than ever. The finish line was in sight, a ribbon fluttering in the breeze, and the crowd's cheers echoed through the air. With a burst of energy, Mia surged forward, her old bike now a steed of determination. Jake, surprised by her sudden pace, pushed harder, but Mia's experience with the trails gave her the edge. In the final moments of the race, as they approached the finish line side by side, Mia's bike flew over the line just ahead of Jake's. The crowd erupted in applause as Mia crossed the finish line first. Jake, panting and exhausted, came to a stop just behind her. For a moment, there was silence, then the cheers grew louder. Jake extended his hand to Mia, a grin spreading across his face. "You earned it," he said, his voice filled with respect. Mia shook his hand, her heart still racing. "You are amazing, Jake. You pushed me to my limits." The rivalry that had driven them for so long had transformed into a newfound respect. As the sun set over Riverton, the two friends, once rivals, celebrated their victory together, knowing that the real win was the journey they had shared. Once upon a time in a lush green forest, there lived a curious little squirrel named Sammy. Sammy was known throughout the forest for his boundless energy and his insatiable appetite for adventure. One sunny morning, as Sammy was scampering from tree to tree, he heard a faint cry for help. Following the sound, he discovered a tiny blue bird trapped in a thorny bush. The bird, named Bluey, had flown too close and gotten tangled in the prickly branches. "Oh no, don't worry, Bluey. I'll help you," Sammy exclaimed, his bushy tail twitching with determination. Using his nimble paws and sharp teeth, Sammy carefully untangled Bluey from the bush. The little bird chirped gratefully and fluttered onto Sammy's shoulder. "Thank you, Sammy. You're my hero," Bluey tweeted happily. Sammy grinned proudly but didn't dwell on the praise for long. He had an idea brewing in his mind. "Bluey, how would you like to explore the forest with me? I know all the best places and the tastiest nuts." Bluey's eyes sparkled with excitement. "That sounds amazing. Lead the way, Sammy." And so, Sammy and Bluey embarked on an unforgettable adventure. They climbed tall oak trees and raced through fields of wildflowers. They splashed in sparkling streams and chased after fireflies as the sun set. As they journeyed deeper into the forest, they encountered all sorts of creatures, wise old owls, playful rabbits, and even a friendly fox who shared her favorite berries with them. But the most magical moment of their adventure came when they stumbled upon a hidden glade filled with shimmering fireflies. Sammy and Bluey watched in awe as the tiny insects danced around them, lighting up the night with their soft glow. "This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen," whispered Bluey, her wings fluttering in wonder. Sammy nodded in agreement, feeling a warmth in his heart he had never felt before. He realized that helping others and sharing adventures with friends was what made life truly special. From that day on, Sammy and Bluey became the best of friends, exploring the forest together and spreading joy wherever they went. And whenever someone needed help, they were always there, ready to lend a paw or a wing. And so, in the heart of the green forest, Sammy the squirrel and Bluey the bluebird taught everyone that kindness, courage, and friendship were the greatest treasures of all. And they lived happily ever after. The end.
In a bustling neighborhood where kids raced their bikes down the streets after school, there was a boy named Alex who had a worn-out old bike. Alex loved his bike dearly. It had been a gift from his father before he passed away, and though it was old and patched up, it carried sentimental value that no shiny new bike could replace. However, Alex's friends, Liam and Emily, had sleek, modern bikes with all the latest features. They would often tease Alex about his bike, calling it ancient and rusty. Alex would smile and shrug it off, trying not to let their comments bother him too much. One sunny afternoon, after another round of teasing from his friends, Alex pedaled home with a determined look on his face. He went straight to his room and started brainstorming. Maybe if I can earn enough money, I can buy a new bike, he thought to himself. Over the next few weeks, Alex took on extra chores around the neighborhood, mowing lawns, washing cars, and even helping elderly neighbors with grocery shopping. He saved every penny he earned, keeping a careful count in his old piggy bank. Finally, after weeks of hard work and determination, Alex counted his savings. It wasn't much, but it was enough to buy a new bike, a shiny, red mountain bike he had been eyeing at the local bike shop. With excitement bubbling in his chest, Alex rode down to the shop and proudly handed over his savings. The bike shop owner smiled warmly as he handed Alex the keys to his new bike. "Take good care of it, young man. It's a beauty." From that day on, Alex's life changed. As he rode his new bike to school, heads turned and jaws dropped. Liam and Emily couldn't believe their eyes. "Wow, Alex, where did you get that bike?" they exclaimed, their faces filled with admiration. Alex grinned ear to ear, feeling a surge of confidence he had never experienced before. His classmates gathered around him, asking about his new bike and admiring its sleek design. Suddenly, Alex was no longer the boy with the old bike. He was the kid with the coolest ride in school. As weeks passed, Alex's popularity grew not just because of his bike, but because of his determination and hard work. He became an inspiration to his friends and classmates, showing them that with perseverance and a goal in mind, anything was possible. And through it all, Alex never forgot his old bike. He kept it tucked away in his garage, a reminder of where he started and how far he had come.
In the heart of a remote, mist-shrouded mountain range stood a peak that locals whispered about in hushed tones, the abandoned mountain. Legends painted it as a place where spirits roamed freely, where the trees whispered ancient secrets, and where the shadows hid things best left unseen. For generations, people steered clear of its slopes, heeding the warnings passed down through time. Among the villagers, there was a boy named Leo whose curiosity burned brighter than caution. Fascinated by tales of the abandoned mountain, he often found himself gazing at its imposing silhouette from the outskirts of his village. Despite the fearful warnings of his elders, Leo couldn't resist the lure of the unknown. He dreamed of exploring the dense forests and uncovering the mysteries whispered in the winds. One crisp autumn morning, Leo decided it was time. Equipped with a backpack, some provisions, and a heart full of courage, he set off toward the forbidding mountain. As he trekked deeper into the wilderness, the forest grew thicker, the air colder, and the silence more oppressive. Shadows danced around him, and strange sounds echoed from the depths of the woods. Undeterred, Leo pressed on, guided by an insatiable curiosity and a determination to conquer his fears. He marveled at the towering trees draped in moss, the crystal-clear streams that murmured secrets of forgotten times, and the wildlife that cautiously observed his every move. Days turned into weeks as Leo delved deeper into the heart of the mountain, uncovering its hidden wonders. But one fateful afternoon, while navigating a narrow gorge, he encountered a massive bear, a creature of legend, with fur as black as midnight and eyes that gleamed with primal wisdom. Frozen in awe and fear, Leo stood transfixed, unable to move as the bear regarded him with a mixture of curiosity and caution.
Once upon a time, in a lush green meadow nestled between rolling hills, there lived a lively rabbit named Rusty and a wise old turtle named Tiberius. Rusty was known far and wide for his incredible speed, while Tiberius was respected for his patience and cunning mind. One sunny morning, as they basked in the warmth of the early rays, Rusty couldn't resist boasting about his speed. "Tiberius," he said with a cheeky grin, "I bet I could beat you in a race to the top of the hill and back before you even get halfway." Tiberius chuckled softly, his wrinkled face breaking into a serene smile. "Ah, Rusty, speed is impressive indeed, but patience and steady progress often win the day." Rusty laughed loudly, not heeding the turtle's words. "Let's settle this once and for all, Tiberius. Let's race to the top of the hill and back. Whoever gets back here first is the true champion of the meadow." Tiberius, though reluctant, finally agreed, seeing Rusty was determined. The animals of the meadow gathered around, buzzing with excitement as they lined up at the starting point. With a signal from the wise old owl acting as the referee, the race began. Rusty shot off like an arrow, his powerful legs propelling him swiftly up the hill. The wind whistled past his ears as he gleefully glanced back at Tiberius, who was steadily plodding along at his own pace. Halfway up the hill, Rusty paused for a moment, confident of his lead. "I'm so far ahead, Tiberius won't catch up," he thought to himself, chuckling. Meanwhile, Tiberius maintained a steady rhythm, his wrinkled legs moving in a deliberate but unceasing manner. He didn't rush. He simply kept moving forward with determined persistence. As Rusty reached the top of the hill, he turned around triumphantly to see where Tiberius was. To his surprise, he saw the turtle not too far behind, steadily nearing the summit. Shocked but still confident in his speed, Rusty turned around and raced back down the hill as fast as his legs could carry him. But in his haste, he misjudged a turn and tumbled headlong into a bush. It took him precious moments to extricate himself, and by the time he resumed running, he could hear the crowd cheering in the distance. Meanwhile, Tiberius reached the top of the hill with a serene smile. He didn't hurry on the way back. Instead, he maintained his steady pace, knowing that consistency would see him through.
3 boys, Alex, Ben, and Charlie, were inseparable friends who lived in a small town called Riverton. The town was quaint and peaceful, but it had one dark secret: the old Langley house on the hill, said to be haunted. The house had been abandoned for decades, and no one dared to go near it. One crisp autumn afternoon, the boys gathered in their favorite spot by the river, skipping stones and sharing stories. The conversation eventually turned to the Langley house. "I bet none of you are brave enough to spend a night there," Alex said, a mischievous glint in his eye. "Are you kidding?" "I'd do it in a heartbeat," Ben replied, puffing out his chest. Charlie, the most cautious of the three, hesitated. "I don't know, guys. What if the stories are true?" But Alex and Ben's enthusiasm was contagious, and soon all 3 boys had agreed to spend the night in the haunted house. They packed their bags with snacks, flashlights, and sleeping bags, and set off as the sun began to set. As they approached the Langley house, its eerie silhouette loomed against the darkening sky. The windows, shattered and dusty, seemed to watch them like vacant eyes. The front door creaked open with a groan, as if welcoming them into its shadowy depths. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the smell of decay. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling, and the wooden floorboards creaked under their weight. The boys set up camp in what appeared to be the living room, its grand fireplace now cold and empty. Hours passed uneventfully as they shared ghost stories and munched on their snacks. But as midnight approached, strange things began to happen. The temperature dropped suddenly, and a chilling breeze swept through the room, extinguishing their candles. "Did you feel that?" Charlie whispered, his voice trembling. "Yeah, probably just a draft," Ben said, trying to sound brave, but his eyes betrayed his fear. Suddenly, a loud thud echoed from upstairs. The boys froze, staring at each other with wide eyes. "Maybe it's just the house settling," Alex suggested, though he didn't sound convinced. Another thud followed, this time closer. The boys grabbed their flashlights and huddled together, their hearts pounding. They cautiously made their way up the creaky staircase, the beams of their flashlights cutting through the darkness. At the top of the stairs, they found a long hallway lined with closed doors. The thudding sound seemed to be coming from the last room on the right. Taking a deep breath, Alex pushed the door open. The room was empty, except for an old rocking chair that swayed back and forth as if moved by an invisible hand. The boys' flashlights flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Suddenly, the chair stopped, and a cold, ghostly voice whispered, Leave this place. Panic surged